David Cameron, George Osborne, and Matt Hancock to face criticism about priorities in years running up to pandemic. The impact of austerity and Brexit on the UK's readiness for COVID will be spelled out at noon on Thursday when the statutory public inquiry into the pandemic gives its first verdict on the country's response. Politicians including David Cameron, George Osborne, and Matt Hancock are braced to face criticism about their decision-making and priorities in the years running up to the arrival of COVID-19 in earlier 2020, sparking a pandemic that claimed at least 230,000 lives across the UK. So, based on this news, COVID-19 claimed the life of 230,000 people in the UK, which is not funny. So now they are going to publish this report to hold their politicians accountable. Senior health officials will also be held accountable for a strategy that focuses heavily on pandemic flu. Heather Halliard, the former Court of Appeal judge chairing the inquiry, is likely to draw conclusions about the lack of transparency over pandemic planning exercises in the years before COVID, including one into pandemic flu, which warned the UK's current preparedness is not sufficient to cope with the extreme demands of a severe pandemic. So it's not only the UK, this is a case of a global issue, but the UK is already taking measures, bringing this report to hold their politicians accountable. Every country in the West and in third world countries equally have to do same, because the politicians failed the people of their various nations during this pandemic. That is just the truth. Yes, people were left on their own to cater for themselves in most of the countries. And even in some countries where their government offered them help, the help was little or almost amounts to nothing, because when COVID-19 arrived, it grounded everywhere. And at the end of the day, you'll find out that COVID-19 is not even the way they broadcasted it to be from the very beginning. Yes, and in the UK, you see a situation whereby the COVID they are saying is very serious. You find out that their prime minister was even attending an indoor party, which later forced him to resign. Yes, so it is high time. The UK is already doing well in terms of bringing this report to hold their politicians accountable. And I think it is only fair that every other countries in the world should examine what happened during those periods. The people in the government, how ready were there, and if they were found not living up to expectations, they should be held accountable for it. Brenda Doherty, a spokesman for COVID-19 bereaved families for justice, a group representing nearly 7,000 bereaved people, said the report, the first at least 10 planned in the next 2 to 3 years, will be a huge milestone for bereaved families like mine. Yes, so it is high time these politicians are being held accountable. Yes, and it is high time the people that are born in the third generation who have access to internet should make use of the internet they have and get information and hold their politicians accountable and stop pushing their blames, their frustration to people that has nothing to do with the policies that are being made or being implemented in their various countries.